Glenn Johnson, Rio Ferdinand, Joe Cole, Frank Lampard, Michael Carrick, and Jermaine Defoe. The golden generation at West Ham. But did they do enough in a claret and blue shirt to make our all-time West Ham 11? The rules are we have to have seen them enough in our lifetime to pick them. So, for example, I can't go selecting Bobby Moore just because I want to select Bobby Moore. Gonzo, was it a hard 11 for you to pick? Is there any controversies in your team with that?
Well, despite how old yourself and many of our listeners think I am, I also can't pick Bobby Moore. So he's not included in mine. Is there anything controversial? Maybe there is, but it was really interesting that you mentioned in your little opening gambit there, those players, because so many of them have had such great careers. There's multiple Champions League winners. And actually, in terms of decorated footballers, in terms of West Ham, if you take the World Cup out of it, actually that little crop there are about as good as anything in multiple Premier Leagues, Champions League, UEFA Cups. But I liked what you said. Have any of them done enough in our shirt? So was Frank Lampard a Premier League legend? Yes. A Chelsea legend? Yes. Was he a Premier League legend? Well, I'll tell you now, early doors, he didn't get into my team, mate.
Interesting. I'll throw Carlos Tevez into that equation. A world-class player, but did he do enough to get into our 11? And what formation did you go with? Because I struggled with this. I wanted to go with a 4-2-3-1, but I had to switch to 4-4-2 due to which players I wanted to squeeze in.
I found myself, the more I thought about it, and I have been thinking about it for a week or so since you suggested doing this video, and I got more clever and more complicated, and the more I got into it, and I was into 3-5-2s and all different things, and I thought, actually, do you know what? Am I overthinking it? So I have actually gone with a 4-4-2 as well, and just thought, actually, I'm going to try and build a team to win a football match here.
Interesting. Right, who's your keeper? Let's kick us off. Who's your goalie?
My goalkeeper's Phil Parkes, and I just look at it now. It was also Phil Parkes was the first autograph I ever got, not football autograph, first ever autograph. Played in the first game I ever saw, and I was lucky enough to meet him as well. And what a real giant of a man, particularly he's a giant of a man still, but particularly when you're a young boy. The biggest, he was a fantastic goalkeeper and still the best goalkeeper I've seen in the West Ham shirt, which is why he's in. But just to show you how times change, he was the world record. We paid £500,000 for him from QPR, and he was the world record. Can you imagine West Ham United breaking the world record for any player, never mind a goalkeeper? Now, the equivalent is, what, did Chelsea do it or something? Or Liverpool? I don't know. I think the world record for a goalkeeper is 70 or 80 million quid now, isn't it? That's basically what West Ham did. So it's Phil Parkes for me.
I've gone with Ludo. I mean, I've seen the end of Ludo's career at West Ham, and I had a bit of confusion doing this because I was trying to remember if I remembered that player or if I'm imagining it a little bit. This is where I was a child as well. But you talk about Parkes being your first signature, your first player, etc. Ludo was my first Corinthian. Do you know those little figures with big heads? Ludo was one of my first Corinthians. I remember him. But anyway, your back four. Talk me through it.
Okay, I've gone for actually I'll do it right back. I've gone for Ray Stewart at right back, which is I just think it's always been a bit of a problem position for us, fullback and particularly right back. And as you'll see when I get into the midfield, I've sort of swapped a few players around, maybe not in their ideal positions, but I've gone for Ray Stewart because I just think it's been a problem and one we never truly solved. And even now you look at it and Zabaletta's in there, but he's not really been there for long. So he's sort of making a little bit of a go at it, and he's been a decent acquisition. I think Lucas Neal for a little while did okay for us. We thought we had a right back in Sebastian Schemmel for a little while. He didn't stay around for too long. And even we shoehorned a centre back in Thomas Repka at right back, I remember. We've always struggled a little bit at right back, always makeshift. And that was a time we didn't. He was a wonderful player, no nonsense, a countryman of yourself as well. Good defender, joined in with the attack, and he never missed a penalty. I think he did. I think he might have missed one or two or something like that. But as I remember him, he just never missed a penalty. He was West Ham's penalty taker, and his record, if you don't know Ray Stewart's record, go and have a look at it. Perhaps I should have done before this video, but it was wonderful. He could be relied upon from the spot, and he could be relied upon. And we need some winners in this team. And Ray Stewart was combative, and he would have taken no nonsense. That's my right back.
I struggled with this because I don't have the option of Ray Stewart. So I was thinking it was almost, I don't want to say pick the best of a bad bunch, but every player that I went through had a negative to that player as well. So Glenn Johnson, he only played so many games for us, but when he did, he looked brilliant. So I thought, is that enough to get in? Then I thought, well, Lucas Neal sorted us out. I thought Lucas was fantastic here, a good captain as well. But then I thought, well, I like to my right back to be attacking. I didn't think Lucas was that type of right back. I thought Carl Jenkinson in that 1 year at Upton Park, but the problem is he had more than 1 year at Upton Park, and he wasn't very good in the second one. I almost went for Zabaleta, but I'm actually going for the one season wonder who you've mentioned, and that's Sebastian Schemmel. I loved him at West Ham. He won Hammer of the Year. I off the top of my head, I don't know any other right back that's won Hammer of the Year. No, on the other side, we've had Stuart Pearce and Julian Dix, etc. that's won it. But I went for Sebastian Schemmel. I loved him at West Ham. I know the second season wasn't great. He had off the field issues, etc. But when he was here, that one season, he had everything. I've gone for Schemmel. Do you want to go for the left back? There's a good chance we pick the same one for.
Yeah, I mean, I've gone for Julian Dix. I mentioned about Phil Parkes and the world record for a goalkeeper earlier. For people that didn't see Dixie play, and particularly in his pomp, the Dix before he went to Liverpool, and obviously we got him back, but I don't know what Julian Dix would cost in today's transfer market, but he was a constant goal threat. No nonsense, a real tough guy. So we've got some real steel in there in my team now. You know, we've got the fullbacks. You're not. I'll tell you what, old young 17-year-old Ronaldo is not doing multiple step overs against these fullbacks. I can tell you, because they're just clouting him. But it wasn't all about him just being a hard man and being a thug. Julian Dix, what a shot that guy had on him. He would just be the ultimate fullback now in many respects. Don't know what he would cost. He would cost an awful lot. What a player, what a folk hero. And again, it's that desire and it's that will to win. You know, we've got some real drive already in my team. You've gone for the same, have you?
Yeah, I mean, he was. Do you know how everybody's parent, everyone's dad, tells their son about one player more than anyone? Julian Dix was that player for me, and there's photos of me as a little baby with Julian Dix holding me and stuff, and that was like my mum and dad's pride and joy. That picture, they're like, look, Julian Dix, their son. So this is a bit like Ludo for me. Am I remembering enough? But I think I am. My early childhood memories of West Ham are usually Julian Dix's penalties, etc. The one against Manchester United, then there was a pitch invasion in that. I've gone with Julian Dix, but even though I only seen the end of his career at West Ham in person, it's more than any other left back's done. I mean, Stuart Pearce had a good year here. Creswell's done okay at times, but you've sort of just got to pick Julian Dix by default, really, haven't you? The centre backs. Now, this is where I've got my first controversial selection. I am awaiting abuse in the comments. Now, there's no right or wrong opinion when you do this. It's your own personal, what you think is the best 11 you've seen. But I think some people are going to tell me I'm wrong here. Would you like to kick off with your pairing? Again, I've got a feeling we might have the same one in here. One of them.
Okay, I'm going to go with Rio Ferdinand, and he wasn't my first choice. I'll get to my first choice in a minute, but if you want the pairing, I'll give you both. A player who, unlike Frank Lampard, who had to go away to be brilliant, but Lampard did score goals for us, but Rio was brilliant from the moment he first laced up his boots for West Ham, and under a lot of pressure, being an ex-Bobby Moore as well. He went for world record transfer fee for a defender, and in many respects, I think, even though he won Champions Leagues and loads, 80, 90, 100 caps for England, Premier Leagues, a wonderful player. Almost his best years were almost at West Ham because he was given free license then. That was your guy that was allowed to bring the ball out from defence. I remember Harry Redknapp used to send him on to watch videos of Franco Baresi, who was a wonderful player, Italy, AC Milan. And he was such a cultured player. I thought long and hard about it, but I didn't want to discount everyone that was in that sort of that group, that Tony Carr group, if you want. And Rio was a fantastic player and will go down as one of the all-time great Premier League players. And he did enough at West Ham to warrant being in my team.
Yeah, I completely agree with Rio. He was the one player I remember him bringing the ball out. I remember him the crowd almost, what the crowd cheer for nowadays when they do a step over, etc., is when Rio played, when he brought the ball out of defence, he got that reaction from the crowd as the equivalent of a winger doing a step over and skilling a fullback and stuff. It's Rio for me. He transformed he was one of the players I think that sort of transformed the role of a centre back. Before, I don't know what it was like back then, but I always got the impression it was a case of just defend only. But then Rio was one of the first ones that says, actually, you can do a bit more than just defending. You can be part of the midfield in a way by playing the football, etc., etc. So Rio's my first choice. So who is your first choice?
My first choice is Alvin Martin, and well, I can't really. It should be enough for me to put Alvin Martin in there and not say anything. But obviously, I'm very mindful. There's a lot of people watching this who won't ever have seen Alvin Martin play. Alvin Martin's Alvin Martin's just a pundit on the radio, isn't he? But Alvin Martin's a fantastic player. We talk about Ginge being sort of getting it about West Ham, about being a Welshman, being West Ham through and through. Well, Alvin Martin was that and then some. A Scouser, but I tell you what, he might as well have Cockney stamped on his forehead because he got it. He was absolutely West Ham through and through. A fantastic player, a cultured player as well, but he could defend. He could defend really well. Of course, he played for England. I mean, I guess his worst moment would be because he features in that wonderful goal, not a handball one, but a wonderful goal that Maradona scored against England. He was a wonderful player. A really wonderful player. And I'm funny enough, it was a little bit of hero worship because I went to a soccer. It's called a football school. I guess these days it'd be called a soccer academy. Went to football school at Wanstead, and it was Alvin Martin's football school. So I actually had in my summer holidays, I had a week's training with Alvin Martin as well. But that's not why I'm picking him. Just a fantastic defender, West Ham through and through, and brilliant.
Well, my first controversial selection is Winston Reid. I know a lot of people agree with this, but I think you've got discount injuries here. We're talking about who's the best in the West Ham shirt, and I think for a long period of time he was our best player. And when he was fitting on his game, Winston was better than West Ham. When we see players being linked to bigger clubs than West Ham, we're quick to dismiss it because straight away we go, they're not good enough. Marco Navic through Man United even went, he's not good enough to start every week at Old Trafford. But when Winston Reid contract was running out, he's linked to Spurs and Arsenal. I remember thinking he is good enough to start for one of those two teams on his day. Obviously his injuries have sort of ruined his West Ham career in a way. People won't remember him for the good defender he is now. I think people remember him as an injury-prone centre-back, but actually I think he was a superb defender. And for a couple of seasons anyway, I thought he was up there in the Premier League as one of the best centre-backs on his day, just for a couple of seasons. But yeah, he makes my back four. So that's our back four is complete. Let's move into our middle four. Starting with the right midfield position now. I'm going to go first for this one because this is one of my all-time favourite West Ham players with Trevor Sinclair. I thought he made me learn. As a child, I used to watch Sinclair a lot, a bit like I watched Thierry Henry a lot because I used to try and watch what they do. And I used to watch the way Sinclair crossed the ball and also switch the ball from side to side, etc. Long ball, if you like. I used to try and watch how Sinclair did it, and I can still imagine his stance in my head right now. It's almost ingrained in my brain a little bit. But I thought he was fantastic. And believe it or not, at the World Cup, I almost found it hard to want England to lose because Sinclair was in the starting 11 for England at that World Cup, and he was playing well, etc. And it was like it was very difficult for me because I thought, well, I would like England to go out, but my favourite players in there. And then also we had all the other West Ham connections as well. David James was in goal and still playing for us at the time. But yeah, he's not called Tricky Trev for no reason, is he? I thought he was fantastic. And he was actually the first player I wrote down, believe it or not. When we did this 11, I thought, well, Sinclair's going in right midfield. Now, who's the other 10? So yeah, Trevor for me.
Good player, Trevor. I think what we've got to bear in mind between your and my team is I've got a bigger squad to choose from than you. Because obviously I'm older. I can pick all the players that you can pick, I can pick, but I've got a whole load of other ones as well from an era when West Ham were not too bad at all. My right side, and I've had this is what I'm saying, as alluded to at the start. I've had to do a bit of ducking and diving, bit of wheeling and dealing, a bit of Harry Redknapp in here. So I've got someone that would normally play on the left. I've played him on the right, and the reason will become evident later on. I am playing Dimitri Payet on the right side of my midfield.
I had that exact same problem, and I now know who your left midfielder is because I was thinking, which one of those two do I leave out? You're cheating here.
Yeah, I am cheating, but it's my team. I'm the manager, and what I say goes. Okay, so I'm building a team in my own image, skillful and slow, with a bit of bite, right? But yeah, I've got to do it. He has to find his way into the team, and don't forget, we are dealing with a right-footed player here. So he's going in there, and because that's one player I don't have to explain why Dimitri Payet. Everyone's seen Dimitri Payet play, and I'm not one of these people who looks at things, it was much better in the old days and the rest of it. Believe you me, Dimitri Payet would have graced any West Ham team, and not just West Ham teams. Dimitri Payet on form gets into any team, and not just any West Ham team.
Yeah, well, that's my left midfielder for all the reasons Gonzo said. He was that one season, even when he was unhappy at West Ham, he was still winning us games on his own. That solo against Borough just shows you how good he was. We were having a pretty poor season. He wanted out, but yeah, he still turned up, took on 4 players and put in the back of the net and got us all 3 points on his own. That was Dimitri Payet. He was a player that excited fans. Do you know something? I actually think Karen Brady probably owes him one, because he actually probably sold, do you know those +2 season tickets for the London Stadium? Dimitri Payet probably shifted a load of them just by being at West Ham United for that season. I wouldn't be surprised if people bought a season ticket to come watch Dimitri Payet at the London Stadium.
Owes him one what?
Pardon?
You said Karen Brady owes him one.
I did, yes. That's exactly what I said. But yes, fantastic, world class in his year here. He could have went to Real Madrid, and none of us would have went, "Oh, that's a bit of a surprise." It was not a full bearer loan deal. We watched him at the Euros for France as well. He was superb for them too. What a player! He has to go in, like you said. There's no if, buts, or maybes about it. But I know who your left midfielder is. But guessing, is it perhaps a certain Joe Cole?
No. It's not Joe Cole. No, Joe Cole is not in my team. My left winger is Alan Devonshire.
Oh, okay. That was my third choice. I thought you'd have went for Cole over him.
Yeah, no. It's got to be Devonshire. What a player to see in full flowing motion. Again, you have to explain it. If you haven't done, if you are young, if you're a young West Ham fan and you're spending time on YouTube watching who we might be signing from the Bundesliga next year or anything like that, just take a little bit of time and go and look at some Alan Devonshire clips. Find what you can. A wonderful player, twisty, turny, skippy, close ball control, a sort of languid type of style, very direct, very tricky. He seemed to float. He was a wonderful, wonderful player. A real crowd favourite. I think if I was to say anything about Devonshire, the crowd loved him. You were talking about the crowd and Rio bringing it out. The crowd loved Devonshire. There was genuine excitement every time he got the ball. And there were a lot. I remember Stuart Slater coming through and people saying, it might be the next Dev. Wonderful. Just such a brilliant player. Fully appreciated at West Ham. And I don't think fully appreciated elsewhere.
All right, centre midfield. This is where I've got, I think, an obvious one, and I've got a potential controversial one again. But who's your 2 centre midfielders for this one?
Okay, I've gone with, I did deliberate on this, and I had to leave out Liam Brady. I was going to put Brady in because I remember seeing him as a young boy. He was at the end of his career, come from Juventus. What a classy player. Just a wonderful player. But I'm trying to win the game of football here, all right? And he was so famous for being at Arsenal in particular and Juventus. It was the last. I don't think we saw the best of Liam Brady, but he was still very, very good. So I've gone for someone who did see the best of their career at West Ham, and that was Scott Parker, because I'm having a bit of bite in the midfield. To be the player of the year in a relegated team is something very, very special. And again, for that year, well, I think Scott Parker did more than a year with us, but there was a particular year when he was the best player in the league, when he was all action, he was defending, he was scoring goals, and I think there was other, we've had a lot of good players, we've had a lot of good midfielders as well, but Scott Parker got in there because he was able to do everything, and I just thought he was a tremendous player, and I just thought his career was slightly mismanaged. He spent a long time at one club, particularly West Ham. I mean, he would have really gone down as a proper West Ham legend, but brilliant, conducted himself magnificently.
Yeah, Parker's in my 11 as well. I think that was my first pick for the centre midfield, really. When he was at West Ham, or just after he left West Ham, he ended up captaining England. I think it was just a friendly, but that's how good he was. Like you said, to win Player of the Year and get relegated is special. I doubt it's been done before in the past. Now, I don't just mean Premier League era. I mean beyond that as well. You keep going back to old First Division and stuff. If you were to look at the bottom 5 teams in the Premier League today, would any of them get anywhere near winning the Player of the Year? Not a chance. I mean, half of them won't even get into a Premier League club, never mind win anything. But he was a special player. He could, like you said, he had everything. He could score goals, he could pass, he could tackle. He was just brilliant. And it was a shame that we got relegated with him in this team, because if we could stay up and keep building the team around the likes of Parker, who knows? But yeah, Parker's an obvious choice. Who's your second one? I'm intrigued as to who you've got here, because there's one player I left out because, again, I wasn't too sure if I'd seen enough of him at West Ham. And it was a bit confusion. It's like childhood memories. I'm a bit confused as to what I remember and what I don't remember, if that makes sense.
Oh, now I'm interested to see you've picked. This is my first name on a team sheet. Yeah, it is my first name on a team sheet. It's Billy Bonds. Now, I'm very aware that Bill is known as a bit of a folk hero and a legend, and people speak about him, and so many, again, didn't see him play. So I'll tell you why he was a legend. Aside from the ridiculous number of games he played for West Ham, he was brilliant. He should have had so many caps for England. He should have had loads and loads and loads. He was the fittest player I think I've ever seen. He could play at right back, he could play at centre back, he could play in central midfield. There would be no getting past Billy Bonds. Billy Bonds was an absolute winner. He never stopped. If you watched Roy Keane play, a bit like Roy Keane, but leadership, but more athletic than Roy Keane. An absolute winner. Skillful too. You listen, with Julian Dixon there, I'll tell you now, with Julian Dixon, Ray Stewart and Scott Parker and Billy Bonds, you would not be messing around with my team. I can tell you that now. But Billy Bonds was just one of the finest players I've ever seen. An absolute workaholic. Would, at those times when you're whinging about your team, asking why don't they give everything, and there's not enough effort, if you watch that Wimbledon game, I tell you what, he would have had their guts for garters if Billy Bonds had been in that dressing room. That wouldn't have happened. That he was like a manager out on a pitch. He was absolutely sensational.
I'll tell you who I left out first of all, Ian Bishop. That's because I get him confused. I think I've seen more of him at Man City than West Ham, and it's a bit like Al Berkovic. I almost put Berkovic in, but I didn't really. I remember him at West Ham briefly, but I remember more from Berkovic at Manchester City. It was probably easier for me because Berkovic is a bit more further forward than this other player. The other player I've gone for is a bit interesting is Alex Song, because that year at Upton Park, I thought he was just a wonderful, wonderful footballer. He was so skillful. I like a player that can do short passing with one-touch, two-touch football, etc. Someone that's almost got like a radar built in them. He knows what's going on behind him without actually looking behind him. He can get the ball and turn and ping it 30 yards with no hesitation. And I just thought it was between him and Carrick, actually. I almost put Carrick in there, but I think Alex Song had the touch of class that Carrick had at Man United, but I just think he was a bit green at West Ham, if you like. But Song just had everything for me. Obviously, its second season wasn't as good, etc. But that 1 year, that one season we had him, he was a special, special player. Are you surprised at that inclusion?
Yeah, gobsmacked, actually. I was not expecting that. He wasn't. I thought about putting Carrick in. Song never even entered my consciousness. But I got to be mindful that I do have such a bigger pool than you to select from. I mean, it's a hell of a dig to use not to be able to select some of the players that I have. And he was a silky footballer, a very good footballer. Everything that you said is absolutely true about Alex Song. And he played for Barcelona, and he played for Arsenal when Arsenal were good as well. So clearly he had talent. It's just funny mentioning him after Billy Bonds, because that thing that Billy Bonds has, Song didn't.
Yeah. But remember, I've got my whole time of sport in West Ham, Mark Noble's been president in centre midfield.
Sure.
So we're playing two centre midfielders every season. I've only got one other centre midfielder. Mark Noble's always occupying one of the spaces. Mate, up front, we're probably going to have the same player. Arguably the best West Ham player I've ever seen. Certain Italian.
Yeah, John Carew is not Italian, mate.
But does Di Canio make your lineup? I assume he does. But
He does. He does. I'm not old enough to have seen Jeff Hurst play, or when we got Jimmy Greaves a little bit later. We seem to get lots of players at the end of their career. Clive Allen came over. Ian Wright came over as well.
Teddy Sheringham's actually
Teddy Sheringham,
good.
Great shout. Great shout. Les Ferdinand came and played for us. Defoe played for us. Yeah, I mean, we've had some strikes at the end of their careers, to be fair. But it has to be Di Canio, because Di Canio was a maverick. Di Canio was absolutely wonderful. You know, had magic. We'd never have signed Di Canio if he wasn't mad. And I often say this when we talk about players now, about somebody not being a complete player. At the moment, it might be Felipe Antino. He switches off sometimes and goes, because we can't afford the guy that's brilliant every game and doesn't have anything wrong with him, because those guys have cost 150 million. That's why we have at West Ham, we have to get the damaged goods, and Di Canio was damaged goods. But crikey, when he was on form, he was as good as anyone. There's the big one. Obviously, everybody goes on about the Wimbledon goal. Go and have a look at he scored a brace against Chelsea, and also there was a performance against Arsenal as well when he did Martin Keough. Go and have a look. Go and have a look at those if you've got the time on YouTube. Absolutely brilliant, complete maverick.
Yeah, his goal was a volley against Chelsea. I mean, he flicked it up himself, yep. But I think someone took the throw in, didn't he? I don't think it touched the ground, did he? He did a couple of keepy ups, then left footed. Bang! Yeah, that's one of my favourite goals from him as well. But he was a magician, wasn't he? He was just fantastic. He was a nutter, but you know what you would do to get Di Canio in your team today, etc. People talk about Marko Navic, and people have been comparing, saying how good he is, but to me, he has nothing on Di Canio, for example. This guy, we talk about Payet winning games. Di Canio could win games. He could also not turn up to some away games, but his ability was second to none. And when you're talking about West Ham legends, this guy is in there, and he got it as well. I think with West Ham, you know, you talk about other players like James Collins, etc., that just gets it being at West Ham. I think Di Canio got it at West Ham. I think he got it at Celtic as well. But he knew what it was to be West Ham. Your final player in your 11 and your second striker.
Yeah, I say it's not 4-4. It can't be 4-4-2. It's 4-4-1-1, and this guy's just behind Di Canio, and it's Trevor Brookham, another legend. Wonderful, absolutely wonderful. What a graceful player. And I'll tell you what, I don't mean to damn him with faint praise when I say he's a graceful player. You ain't knocking Trevor about. Trevor's quite a big bloke. I mean, yeah, I don't know what he is. Must be 6 foot, 6'1", something like that. A big fella, Trevor. Not some little. He's not Zola. But I tell you what, could read the game. Came through with that sort of Greenwood philosophy. Of course, went on to represent England. Had a lovely partnership with England alongside Kevin Keegan, actually, as well. And was just so graceful, so classy, and he's became a lovely ambassador for the club because he's a gentleman, and he's another one of those legends, and there's a stand named after him. And when all that stuff happens, all the razzmatazz around a legend, it's easy to get caught up by that. He was a bloody good player. You would know about it if Trevor Brookham was in our team at the moment. Sometimes when we were looking around for technique and guile and something to unlock an opposition defence like we do at the moment in a team, Trevor was that man. Absolute quality. An eye for a pass and an eye for goal. Not fast. There's not a lot of pace in my team. And if there was something else, if I probably was making a team, I probably would put a bit more pace in it. But I can't leave any of the guys out that I've included.
Would you care to take a punt at who my other striker is?
Tevez.
No, it's not actually. And it's not Defoe either. Dean Ashton.
Yeah.
He had everything. He had everything. It's criminal what happened to him, actually, that we never seen his career at West Ham United, because when he come, he was quite fast for a big bloke. I thought he could hold the ball up well, but I thought he had a bit of speed about him. But his goals, as soon as he got within 25 yards of that goal, he was capable of finding in the back of the net with it. You know, you look at his goal in the FA Cup semi-final, etc. You know, he doesn't need half a chance. He would take it just like that. And it's just, you can't help but get frustrated and disappointed at what happened with the England camp, etc., etc. Because that guy had everything for me up front, and you do just wonder if things could have been different for West Ham if Dean Ashton had come back from England that time and he was fully fit, etc., etc., and we had a striker in our hands, because I do believe that he probably would have left West Ham eventually. I think he had the potential to go on and do bigger and better things in West Ham, but we would have at least enjoyed seeing him develop into that player before he left us in stuff. And it's just it's the player that never was really Dean Ashton, but what I seen from him at West Ham, he's good enough to get into that 11 because he more than held his own. He wasn't a player that's not fulfilled his potential through wasting it like Ravel Morrison or not taking his opportunities, etc. You get a lot of those players that come through. This guy, by pure unluckiness, if you like, has just never got to see out his career and never fulfilled his potential. And I just think it's a travesty, really, because I thought he was fantastic. But Gonzo, all that said, are you happy with your 11?
I am. I would like a bit more pace. I think if I actually was a football manager rather than a plumber, I think if I was building a team, I would look to inject some pace in there at some point. But this team's never going to play together for obvious reasons. So it's a dream team. It's and they're not even favourites. You asked me before, is it favourites or is the best? It's the best players that I think shoehorned into a sort of formation. And it's going to be interesting to see what people come up with, because I do think this is a good concept for a video. It's going to be interesting to see everybody else's teams and see people pick apart our teams. But please do bear in mind, you are dealing with an era. And, you know, it's there are others. I think Dean Ashton's a great shout, by the way. You know, he really, really was a fine player. And there's just some areas, I think certainly striker being one of them, where we are sort of blessed with options, and then you sort of look at right back and you're scratching your head. Luckily enough, I was able to choose what I chose. But yeah, I'm more than happy with my team. And I think, aside from the pace, if my team were to play, they would hold their own at the moment, both creatively plus in terms of team spirit and leadership. Sometimes you look at our squad and not our squad, perhaps that's a bad way to look at it, but modern day football, you think, where's the leaders, where's the leadership? That's why I always used to admire Roy Keane so much and Tony Adams, even though they play for rival clubs. They were real leaders, and the team that I've picked, there's so many leaders in that team. There would be no walkover for anyone.
Is Declan Rice our only current player that would maybe one day get into that 11 of yours?
Well, yeah. I'm not doubting Declan. I'm just thinking if there's anyone. I mean, yeah, somebody like Felipe Anderson would have to have a hell of a career to oust Alan Devonshire. The thing is I am mindful of people watching this who didn't see those players play, which is why I tried to explain it, because my old man used to tell me about players who I never saw. And he used to say about Jeff Hurst, Hursty was brilliant. He used to say, Hursty, he said, was the only player he used to know who could pass with his head. So he used to say Hurst was so good in the air. He could direct it. He could actually take the weight off the ball and cushion a header into someone's path and all the rest of it. He almost put curl on the ball with his head. So, but it was always a story. It was always anecdotal. And that for me, when I hear about, we're lucky now, because the players that we talk about now, because we've got HD this, and even just before HD, even standard definition was okay. We can show people a lot of these players, but you go back, it's hard. Unfortunately, I think we do have some, so you can see some of Billy Bonds, but it's not just that there's footage and the footage is better now. Not every game used to be televised. I remember when a match being on, there'd be one game a week, and the rest was match of the day. Oh, and there was no streams or anything like that. So you were really limited to who you see play. So most of people's precious moments, and when I say what I'm about to say now, there's going to be a lot of people at my age and older going to say, yes. A lot of people's precious moments were just witnessed by them at the ground, and they weren't caught by any cameras. And you see a lot of people scratching around trying to find footage of this, that, and the other that just doesn't exist. So we're lucky now. You talk about Declan Rice, or you talk about Rio Ferdinand, or even Scott Parker, for instance. Anybody watching this video, and if it's in a time capsule, in 20 years' time, we'll be able to see footage of Scott Parker. And I was always mindful of that when my mum used to tell me, not just West Ham players, people like Jinky Johnson, the Celtic legend, and George Best. how brilliant they were. I mean, it's really hard to find footage that's watchable. And when you're used to high definition and all the rest of it now, it's really hard to watch a grainy black and white image. And here's running down the wing, it's George Best. And it's tough to get a grasp. Stanley Matthews, of course, it's tough to realise and appreciate how good those players must have been.
Yeah, indeed. But anyway, as Gonzo said, let us know your all-time best West Ham 11 or players you have seen enough of in their West Ham careers. Put them in the comments below. Let us know what you think of our 11s. I am ready for the criticism over Winston Reid and Alex Song being included. But hey-ho, I think they were fantastic and at some point in their West Ham career. That's Gonzo's 11. That's my 11. Drop a like on the video if you enjoyed it. Let us know what you would like to see do more videos of this ilk. We've only done it because it's FA Cup break or Spain break, depends how you want to word it. So we thought we put suggestions up and someone suggested this video, so we've done it. So we'll also have to do more. We'll do more of these types of videos in the summer, etc., etc. So let us know anything you'd like to see. But get your 11s down below. Me and Gonzo will be having a look over them as well, and we'll probably pick out a couple for the next cup of tea and mention their 11s, the ones that we think are probably best. Or if there's some good shouts, obscure shouts, or some good players that we have not mentioned that have played for West Ham over the years as well. So let us know your comments below. But anyway, drop a like on the video, enjoy it, subscribe if you're new around here, and we'll see you in a bit.